is my round 8 game. This is against international master Eylon Nakar, who's very, very strong, like 24, 40, 24, 30, 24, 50, somewhere in there. And as strong I am. Like, I've seen him in a lot of tournaments. He's really good. Kind of funny story for this game is I actually played this guy the last night in Blitz, and I was pretty sauced. I consider the Blitz tournament as my chess vacation. So before every round, I think we drank like a beer and a half. And I wanted to lose. My whole goal was to make sure I don't play Daniel Naroditsky. Didn't want to go there and get posterized. So I was like, all right, I'm ready to lose. And then I think I won the first round, I won the second round. I kept winning, and then I drew a GM, Brandon Jacobson, in a better position. Like, I was the one pressing. And then I played this guy. And I think he got a good position at the opening. And then I find this tactic. And I'm just shocked. I'm like, what? I'm supposed to lose it. Why am I finding these good moves? And I go to C3, and and then I tap my friend on the shoulder. He's like, yo, check this out. And then Zura's 2 boards down, and he starts looking. He's like, oh my god. And then Rook C3, and I kind of just like win pretty easily. So now I'm playing this guy the next day, and I was thinking like we might laugh when we see each other, but no, he was all business. And I was like, oh man, this guy's coming with heat. And at the same time, remember, I'm 4.5 out of 7, and I'm talking to my friends, and if I win this game, I clinch the norm. If I draw, I'm probably going to still have to score the last round. I'm going to have white. I was black this game. But if I win, I clinch. And this is running through my head, and this guy's definitely trying to beat me. So I'm like, all right, here we go. And to top it all off, I get a French. This whole tournament, everyone's been playing D4. D4, D4, D4. And I knew this guy was going to play French because he only plays D4. That's all I saw in the database before when I was prepping. And I know he plays the French. So I was like, oh man, this guy's going to know the French well, and I'm definitely get the French. I've been talking all this shit about the French, and I was like, yo, when I get the French, I'm going to do something good. So now I get a French. And he goes Tarrasch, and I think this is what I expected. I knew he played Tarrasch. I think it took a couple games to get there, but I saw he played Tarrasch. So I go Bishop E7 from Rosich line. Honestly, one of my kind of favorite lines. It really revived the French for me, because the Tarrasch was really kicking my butt. And then I found this variation. Honestly, I found it by playing the French against a Grandmaster. And the Grandmaster played the French and played this, and I've never seen it before. And I was like, dude, this stuff is really good. I need to check it out. And that's how I learned the Morozevich line. So losing is very important too, because if I didn't lose that game, and I just got wiped out, if I didn't lose that game, I wouldn't know this variation. And now I'm playing it in round 8 to try to clinch a norm. So he goes Bishop D3. I mean, this is all theory. This is all like really normal. And what's crazy is like at this point, he's used like a whole hour on the clock. It's an hour and 40 minutes to start the game, and he's got 40 minutes on the clock, and I think I might even have like an hour 41 minutes. Because I mean, I haven't played chess yet. These are all moves like I've just memorized. So I'm not even playing chess at this point, and I've already got an hour advantage. This is when I start thinking, all right, dude, I could win this game. Like, I'm already getting spotted all this time, and I kind of know this line, and I don't think he knows this line, or he's never seen it before, because he was really like taking a lot of time. I mean, he played all theory, and then take on D5, and this is another thing. The Tuesday before the tournament, I was prepping all night, and I prepped the French really hard. Like, I was really confident in the French. And I remember going over this variation and thinking, what if he takes on D5? Because if I go queen takes D5 here, I think it's very drawish. Like, I'm going to get this pawn back. It's not that bad. Actually, yeah, I guess it's not even drawish. I'm just worse here. So queen takes D5 was normally what I would play because I don't want to trade off or get this isolated pawn. But I remember the prep, and I remember it said e takes D5, and I was like, wow, this is really interesting. I get the isolated pawn, but I have very active pieces. And I think it's very easy for me to get the bishop there. I can go knight takes C5, take this bishop, and I don't have to deal with the French bishop, the bishop on C8, being a bad bishop, because I can always go bishop G4. So this is still my prep, and I mean, he's still burning a lot of clock, and he goes B3. So B3 is taking the first kind of strange move. I'm not saying it's like a bad move or anything, it's just kind of weird, because you don't see like the bishop on B2. I think his idea was he wanted to play against this isolated pawn, and if he controls the D4 square, eventually he's going to be able to liquidate enough material. And real quick, when you're playing against the isolated pawn, if you have the isolated pawn, and I read a book on this, and I'm kind of glad I did, because I actually I guess know the structure of the plans pretty well, and I have it in a lot of my openings on both sides of it. Normally I like to play against it, but I know if you have the isolated pawn, you want to keep pieces and try to attack. The idea is you have two open files, so you have an easier time to attack. And if you're playing against the isolated pawn, you want to trade off pieces and go to an endgame. Because right now, I can attack. But the more pieces that come off, the more this isolated pawn is going to turn into a liability. It's going to be a problem because there's no pawns that can protect it. That means eventually, if he just piles up on his pieces, all of his pieces on the pawn, there's a good chance he can win it. So those are the kind of two plans that I keep in my head. So I go knight takes pawn, and bishop takes is the better move, and I guess it makes sense because at some point I really wanted this bishop on this diagonal, but I wanted to go knight takes. So now I always have the option to take the bishop pair, take his bishop, and get rid of his light square bishop, which is generally the best piece for white against the French. So in principle, like knight takes, I think makes sense, but if I had to do it again, I'll probably go bishop takes, and then I think I can always go knight b4, and that's the other kind I do with bishop takes. You can always go knight b4, get this, and then also put pressure on c2. And the bishop is in a more ideal position. Okay, so bishop b2, bishop g4. Once again, I'm playing pretty fast. I know he's burning clock, and I don't want to waste time trying to figure out the perfect kind of moves here, because I want him to feel the pressure, and I think there's a lot of good moves for black here. So you just like pick a couple and you just play naturally. So this, rook c8, I'm just trying to put pressure. And here I kind of find this cool idea, and I'm like, okay, he can't really make any moves here. Because if this knight moves, I can go knight e4. If this knight moves, I mean, he just wasted time, and where does it move to? All these pieces are kind of maxed out. So I can force the action, or I can just slowly, like try to strangle him, and just put pressure and wait for the right moment. And I think a4 is a good move for that. Now I did miss this idea of knight h5. So I saw this later on, and I kind of wish I saw it earlier, because the knight coming to f4 I think is very strong. And here it's a lot harder for him to deal with it than I did later, which you'll see. So I go a4, bishop d4, and I just I take, which looking back I think it was a little bit premature. And my reason behind taking is he had to play a takes, and at some point if he can go c takes and my queen's on c7, which I wanted it to be, the c file opens and he gets this 2-on-1 on the outside. So I'm already thinking if this comes to an endgame, the 2-on-1 on the outside is a lot better than the 2-on-1 on the inside. Because the closer this pawn is to kind of the center, the easier it is for my pieces to stop it. But if he gets a 2-on-1 on the outside, if the pawn gets down here, my pieces have to move all the way. They have to shift all the way to this side, and then he can start attacking here better. Maybe it was a little bit, I guess, too analytical here. I never think that far ahead. And I guess if I keep the pawn here, he's always got to think about me taking, which just adds more like mental, I guess, taxation to him. If that's a word or a term. So I take, kind of releases some pressure, and I just go rook e8. So rook e8 here, and queen a5, knight f3, and then now I find this idea of knight h5. Here, okay, another idea I was really thinking about was doubling on the c file. I was thinking rook e7, rook c7, and I was thinking about knight f4 at some, I think here, knight e4. Maybe it's actually here, knight e4. There's a lot of tactics. For example, like if he takes everything. I saw bishop f5, and I guess this doesn't even work here, and then bishop a3, but I guess he just goes rook here. I was thinking I could try to get some tactics there, or maybe it was after queen a5 first. Yeah, I think that was it. So here, so queen a5, and then here I was thinking about knight to e4, and I was also thinking about taking the bishop. But another thing I was really keeping in the back of my mind is don't trade off too much. I don't want to make it simple for him, because now he's really starting to get low on time. I think maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And the more things he has to calculate, the more chances he has to slip up. And a very good point that my friend made after the game was, with the current tournament position, I could have thought about offering a draw here. He's in a tough position, he has very little time, and if I offer the draw, he kind of has to take it. Like, not saying no is, like, I think too ambitious and a strategic mistake, and I'm just trying to norm, right? So if I draw this, then I go into the last round only needing half a point, and that's probably not the hardest to do, but there is a chance that if I lose the last round, all this work was for nothing. Now, in my mind, I didn't even think once about offering a draw, but looking back, that is a decision that I think I could make. I need to at least consider in this position. But no, I wasn't thinking of a draw. I was like, I'm gonna get this guy. So knight h5, bishop b5, and I think this is when he started really making some good moves. Like here, my pieces start moving back. So c3 threatens b4, so now I have to move my queen back, and then here, and I have to move my knight back. So he started to reclaim some momentum, and I think here, if I offered a draw, now he would probably decline, because the position's kind of taking a turn for the opposite. Now I still have threats here. It's not like he's just completely winning. Like if I get my knight to f4, I think it's a problem for him. I have a lot of sacrifices over here. I mean, his pieces still aren't amazing, and these pawns are kind of weak. So if I can trade off, and one idea I was really thinking about was trying to get a knight d6, take this bishop. At some point I was like, okay, this is his best piece. How do I get rid of this piece? But there really was no good way to do it. So he goes g3, stopping knight f4. And here I just go h6, stopping knight g5. Once again, I'm just trying to make good moves and keep the pressure. And the time is ticking. Once you're in time pressure, it's very hard to get out. It is 30-second increment, but to play like 6 moves fast in a row in a complex position is really tough. Like every move, you're going to take at least 30 seconds to double check things. So if I just make complicated moves, his time is going to continue going low until more pieces come off. So just things to think about in these kind of positions. So rook e3, knight f8. I'm making sure that now there's no mate here. And once again, I do want to get a knight d6 and get rid of this bishop. So he doubles. I go rook a8. And honestly, this is kind of probably not the best idea. I was just like, okay, how do I get counterplay? How do I get my pieces better without actually changing anything? And I saw an open file in rook a2, and I thought that was a good place to kind of put my rook and just keep pressure over here. And at some point, I do really want to go queen c8, attack this one. Actually, I'll show you guys in a sec. So bishop d3, and I wanted to make queen. Okay, so queen. Actually, I did go queen c8. Bishop c8, computer move, but that's just trading off. That's not gonna happen. So queen c8, and I really wanted him to go h5, h4, and I was trying with all my might to go bishop here, and knight f4, and I wanted to make this work. And I guess here it would have worked. And the idea is he can't take because I have queen check, and that's just me, right? And this, I think, with time pressure, probably here he's got like a minute, 2 minutes, 30 seconds, something very low, very hard for him to deal with. I guess rook takes d3 is even better, but that was what I was trying to do, and he did a really good job of stopping it. So he went queen e2 first. Once again, I was like, please, can I do it? But it doesn't work. And here I go rook a2, which I think is not a good move, but it's the right move for the position, if that makes sense. Because he's really low on time. I'm adding stuff for him to calculate. And according to the table, I didn't really see bishop b1. And then this, I think, was the really the good practical move, rook b2. If I just admitted defeat and came back, which I was kind of close to doing, now he's gonna make some easy moves, and now it's his turn to have a good time. And this is where international masters, grandmasters, they'll win these worst games by taking the momentum, moving forward, and then once I go rook a8, I've seen it before, it's over. He's just gonna make easy moves, not have to worry, and then generally they don't blunder. Every once in a while you get blessed and they make a big blunder, but here I don't think he was going to. But I go rook b2, which is really dangerous because this rook can easily get trapped. And in my head, I was like, I can always sacrifice this rook for this bishop and then try to finish him off over here. So that was my insurance policy for rook b2. So he goes queen d1, trying to corral it, and that's I think when I see after rook c7, if he ever goes queen c1, I can take on b4, which actually is not very good, and I'll show you guys why a little bit later. But this would actually be losing later on. But here I can do it, and it's good. So here I go bishop g4, just putting more pressure and waiting for the right moment. He goes rook e8, which queen d7, and he kind of has to go back, which I think was a bad move. Now the idea here is he can go queen c1, take, and then bishop c2. And now if I go rook b5, he has bishop a4, and he wins back the exchange. So that would actually have won the rook in this position. Now very hard to see in time pressure, because once you see queen c1 and rook takes b4, you're like, no, he wins upon my position collapses. I mean, I think it's not that simple. I think here, like this, I can probably take on d4 or something, and it's complicated. But in time pressure, he's not going to mess with those complex positions, unless he's like a wild man. So he goes rook e3, kind of comes back, and now I think I start taking back the momentum. I go knight e6, he goes bishop e5, which is a blunder. But it's really hard in this position, because the best move is queen c1, which looks like the opposite, because it looks very dangerous, and he's got maybe definitely 30 seconds. He almost flagged at least 5 times. You'd have 1 second left, 3 seconds left, 5 seconds left, and then make a move. So bishop e5 looks like a good move because he's trading off, but it's dangerous with his pin and everything, and I think he was just forced into it. He's 1 second left, have to move. So I take, rook takes, and now I take on c3. Now there's a lot of fun stuff I could do here. I was looking at maybe d4 or knight f4, but this is just the easy move. And now the rook's just really coming in, and he's got a lot of threats to deal with. So he goes bishop f5, and I think his strategy is pretty simple here. Try to trade off, make it simple, just get rid of all the tactics and then either try to hold an endgame or try to reverse positions and get a good endgame. But the problem is I have these knights are really tricky. So knight f6, he goes knight e5. I think his last mate, I mean, I don't even think it's a try, but rook takes f6, g takes, and one guy after the game was really trying to be like, yo, I think that worked. That was the move. He needed to do that then. You were busted. And his idea was knight e4, which I actually missed, but I definitely would have seen rook takes f3 here, because he's hitting this and he's hitting this. But if I take here, it protects this f6 pawn, and if he takes, I can just take the knight. And this is a pretty easy game, easy position to convert. My king is not that weak because he doesn't have that many pieces, and I'm just out of a piece. He doesn't even have a pawn for it. So knight f6, knight d4, queen c8. Once again, I'm just making like pretty good moves, like not really trying to over push, overextend. I'm really making sure I'm protecting everything. I'm like, these sacks don't work. Really just focusing on, I make sure I don't fall for some blunder. So queen c8, knight f3, I take on b4, just once again, simple moves. All my pieces are kind of in the vicinity of each other. He can't really win anything because everyone can protect everyone at a moment's notice. And with rook takes b4, my other idea was to stop queen g4 check. So I get this pawn, and I also take away his rook takes f6, pawn takes queen check idea, which I was a little bit like, okay, maybe that's something. And now I don't even have to deal with that. He goes knight e3, rook e4, and now my idea is d4. Let's say he just makes some random move like this. I can go d4, and wherever he goes, let's say like here, which I don't think I can do, but I just go take, and rook c1. That was my whole idea with rook e4. Once again, simple chess, nothing complicated. So he goes queen f3, and this is when I know it's over. This is when I was like, all right, we did it. We clinched the norm. I go knight d4, queen d1, and I mean, it's just a tactic. I mean, it's hard, low on time. Now I've taken back the momentum. Now I'm really controlling the game. And then I think knight d4, and he got a little bit frustrated. Queen d1. I mean, you can definitely see on his face. He was like, I think it's over. So I take, and here he resigns. So yeah, I was pretty happy after this game. I didn't know 100% that it clinched, but I knew it clinched. 5.5 out of 9 I've known with before, and this tournament I definitely played better. I played stronger people, and I'm guaranteed playing up the last round with 5.5 out of 8, which I think is a pretty baller score. So I was pretty happy after this game. I mean, a lot of congratulations, a lot of people just happy for you, which is always great. And I guess I'll get into the whole like norming after for the last round. So last round, round 9, but very happy about round 8.